Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Plus Three Futures and Commodities Show. My name is Ben Maldonado, and as always, I'm here with my partner Barry Hederachi. Barry, how we doing?
Doing great, doing great.
We're recording here on October 31st, about an hour after the close. So the month of October is done. The October scary ride is over, Barry. So what's next? Are we going to be giving thanks in November, or will we be ended up being the turkey on the dinner table at month's end?
Well, it depends if you guys watch our show.
There you go.
Yeah, I mean, October was a kind of didn't disappoint, right? We got some crazy
some
moves, and
some volatility, some
yeah,
ups
yeah.
and downs, and
Mhm. So we'll,
now
we'll see
it's
what's coming up. Yeah, yeah.
I mean, listen, just from my perspective, we got a big show today, because I've got wheat, corn, soybeans, cocoa, coffee, and nat gas to talk about. So, without any further ado, let's dive right into it. I mean, it just tells me the markets are becoming active, right? The things are moving, and we that's as traders, that's what we want. So let's see, which way is the S&P going to be moving? That's what we want to know next.
Yeah, we're getting active, all right. I mean, when we're getting like 40 point, 50 point, 4 minute bars,
Oh God.
that's, we're definitely in different times.
Yes.
All right, let's take a look. Let me start with the SPX since that's kind of where we normally start. You guys remember from last week and the weeks prior, we left off with this 67.27 last week before. Well, for a while, right? We've been here for
Yeah.
about a month, tapping against it, being around it, bouncing off of it. And the Friday before, when we finally broke off, we were wondering if it's going to be, we're going to move higher, or is it going to be sort of a sell off after the gap. And then, we were kind of favoring a move higher because it was very obvious that all the indices kind of broke through major levels. Sure enough, market followed through for a couple of days, and then we had a little bit of a correction. And given the size of this move that we had from the, I guess we can't call it the tariff low. I don't know what you'd call this low, but I guess the October low. Couple, 1 day correction is not a big deal. And today we kind of had just about an outside day. We came up, made a new low, moved higher. So we'll see how things go. But the key thing to remember is the reason I brought up all that and the 67.27 was that was our key level to watch. And we said, long as, if we break through that, we're basically open all the way up to 7,000. And sure, we're going to hear all kinds of news on the way up there, and some of it being probably valid and some of it not so much, right? A lot of it could be just noise. Anyway, looking at the SPX, we'll look at all the indices, go through that, so we'll get a proper sort of frame around what we have for next week. And the levels that we cover will give you the key zones to watch and where to look for support, resistance, and also acceleration in either direction. So after the 67.27, the next big level that we have, the quarter of the square, ends up being right around 68.25. This week, we managed to hold above the quarter square. The only little bit of a worrisome thing is, we topped out exactly on 7/8, which, it's a little bit like Gann's 45, 7/8 could terminate moves. And if the big question is, did it terminate a move? I would say, well, I think the possibility is there. I would like to see it go up to 7,000 and maybe even a little higher, maybe get up into the next eight, maybe, 71, maybe. But we want to notice the 7/8 level that we tapped, basically the high this week. And the important support level will be the quarter square, 68.25. So what's the deal with the 68.25? If we take this out next week, I mean, especially if we settle below that, we have a whole day below that. I would say the high is in for a while, and we're gonna retrace a little bit more. Let's just say, the cash kind of gapped, and we're kind of sitting up here by itself. There's a very good possibility we come down and check the 67.27 level at a minimum. So we want to watch the 68.25. That's the key level to watch. To the upside, it's not a problem because if we can hold this counter trend, since the trend is up, we're looking at these as counter trends. We had a counter trend here, counter trend here. So it looks all pretty well managed so far, and it's holding well above our levels. The fact that we held the quarter square, the 68.25 twice, I don't know, it's a positive sign. And the flip side of that is if we lose that level, you really want to watch out because as you can see, we have a gap, and this gap looked like, it almost got closed, or I think it got closed on some markets, right? So anyway, those are the things to watch. Do you have anything to add there, Ben?
Just that, as you said, if we pull back to that 67.27, that might not be a bad spot, you know,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
test of
Yeah,
the original breakout. I mean, it'll tell us whether, I mean, if we crash through that, we know, okay, that was kind of a false break. But if we hold it, it's going to show the strength and we could get that year-end rally that everyone's looking for.
exactly. You mean come back here, correct, and then move higher, right? Yeah, yeah,
Yep. Yep.
that's true. That's true. So, but I think 68.25 will get you started for the week, and depending on which side we sit on Monday, right, at the open. So that's it for the cash. Let's take a look at the NASDAQ. This is the futures market. Again, it didn't disappoint. We were up strongly for 3 days. We were looking for it to move higher, and we had a correction and an inside bar. So you guys know the rule for Monday. Let's see which way we tend to move. And again, we have room to go. We have 26,590 area. That's 50% of the square. I think we ought to be able to make that. Otherwise, like we saw in the cash, we could easily correct, retest the break. I mean, the real breakout is down here, right? If you want to just look at the structure, 23,360, 25,360 is really the technical breakout level, and the square coming off the April low was around 25, 126. So that would be, well, it would be a pretty decent correction, and it wouldn't be out of line with the corrections we've had on the way up here. So let's see. It'd be nice to get to 50%. I think there's a good shot at getting there. The question is, are we going to correct a little bit more before we step on the gas, right? That's really what we're looking at. Take a quick look at Dow, the Dow futures. So here, we talked about it last week, how all the indices sort of broke through major levels. So here it was 47,162. And, we held well above it. No problem. This is what we call, we made air above it all the entire week. Now, really, if we're going to go higher, we obviously we have to take that out, the high this week. And the quarter level, it would end up becoming 48,300, right around that area. So 48,300, if we can clear that, well, it really opens up a lot. And so far, this looks like a little bit of a correction. But like I said, we had that 7/8 on the cash chart. So let's just be a little bit awake and watch the lows and see if today's low on the Dow and actually all the markets gets protected, if it's protected or if it's taken out on Monday. So the basic theme that you can see already is about that low being held, meaning we can expect market to go a little higher, or the low gets taken out where we get to watch a steeper correction that might get right into the breakout level or a little below. So here the square level will be 67.53, and if we can hold above that on these corrections, I think in the bigger picture we're in pretty good shape still. There's definitely more upside. I mean, ideally, it'd be nice to hit 7,100 up above, just to finish up the leg in a big way, and that would be towards the end of November. We're going to count the timing, but otherwise, we can hit it anytime. But that's the potential, and so we're watching the counter trends to see if they're signaling strength or not. I mean, this is basically an outside bar, right? Outside bar closed down, and we have one lower low. So it's quite not enough. So we can say we have a 1 day correction roughly. Let's see what Monday brings. But now you guys know the levels, and you have an idea of what to expect if we trade lower. See what else we got here. Let's take a look at these contracts. again, if you guys notice, once the break came, we managed to kind of hold above the entire period. So this is very bullish in a sense. And because of the 7/8 and some of the minor cycles that were showing up, and I think Ben will talk about them during his session because we have a pretty reliable cycle that's showing up, I think, early next week.
Yep.
You're right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll talk
And you
about
can't,
that.
you certainly can't call that bearish. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, no, this is not bearish. It's looking really good. So, but the thing to watch is fine, it's not bearish, it's bullish. We want to watch the counter trends. We want to watch these lows. So make sure they're being held. So once the high gets taken out, the momentum's back in. I mean, this is the basis of the daily. You can do the same thing on lower time frames. And I'll show you guys what happened on the 30-minute this week, which was, I mean, there's plenty of trading in there this week. Little scary, but plenty of trading. So again, for all the indices, watch Friday is low, Thursday is low. We want to be above that. That seems to be where some of the support's coming from. Here we have 2/3 of the square around the same level. And to the upside, sure, this high is in place, but we can certainly take those out and move higher. And moving higher looks to be the better direction for now. I mean, I wouldn't mind it moving higher to make things a little bit easier. All right. Next, let's take a look at the weekly, and then we'll look at the 30-minute. So here's the weekly cash. We got above the quarter square on the weekly. This is 67.92. And, we held pretty well above it. Everything looks okay. And like I said, once we broke to the upside, we opened up all the way up to like 71.50. So that's what's up above. We are running a pretty steep angle, no question about it. This is the thing, right? And I think long as people are talking about bubbles, this is probably not going to stop because no bubble happens while we're all talking about it. So we'll see. Looks like that's a little bit more mileage. At least getting up into the 7,100 area would be nice. So that's the cash. Let's take a look at this is the futures contract going off of the 2020 lows. We did make once we took out the 65.30, we talked about, well, half a square, 50% of the square is going to be the next target. And we did get there, and we're sitting right there. So I think the next thing we'd like to see is if you're going to correct, sure, we can probably correct down a little bit, buy some time, burn up some time, and go higher. Otherwise, the 68.78 level is the one level you really want to watch, because if we settle above that, clearly we have a clear shot getting up into the base of the weekly, at least 72.42, right? That's base of the weekly. So the daily, I know we had lower levels. We can tap those, correct for a few days, whatnot. But weekly is a big deal when we get there. So that's the level we can expect to get to if we can hold 68.78. Of course, we closed very, very close to it, a little too close to call. So we'll watch it. We'll watch it next week. Anything you want to add to
Market
that, Ben?
market loves to do that, right? Close right on or right near a key level
Oh man, all the time.
for the week.
So here we have the 30-minute. You can see the ride we took. The ride up was pretty well. You can see the bars are very tight, normal looking bars, and on the way down, you can see the volatility here. I mean, each bar is, 3, 4, 5 times the size of the bars on the way up. Anyway, we found resistance at 69.50, right exactly where the quarter square is. And I was really watching 69.33 was the big deal here. Once we broke out, we were looking for resistance here. And surprisingly, we managed to get on top of it. But we really couldn't break the 69.50. We were tapping around. Big resistance really here, the 69.72. But we couldn't quite get there. And, we corrected a couple of times, came down to support 68.81, ran it out one more time. And this was the signal, right? I mean, we all know this. We had a false break. And sure enough, as soon as the false break, low got taken out, whoosh, and when we talk about a key level, you can see what happened here was, you guys that are following us on X and following the updates that we post. So, and when we mention levels, 69.33 is important. Okay, so how does it show up? So, when we slip through it, you can see how on the way back up, right here. We couldn't get above, close below, slipped a little, came back. Now, right there, you can see how we tapped it, couldn't really do it. And then we started consolidating below, right? We're not above, we're hanging it below. So that's from there on, it's all weak. From there, we slipped a little new low here. We can see a lower high. Now we start to see all the lower highs. We're starting to trend lower. Lower highs pushing, right? Here we had higher lows, but that was a triangle. Broke to the downside, retest down, and there is support. I've been saying all week 68.42 is the major support. We came down yesterday, didn't quite get to it. Looked like, well, we got some legs to run back up. But, we wrapped around 68.97, tried to get up one more time, right? We couldn't quite do it exactly at the 3/4 square. And then as soon as the trend line got taken out, we were down again, down, retest, fail. And that time we went all the way down to 68.42. We also had a fuse line show up around 68.55, I think. From there, we went right back up to 68.97, which this morning I said it's going to probably looks like it's going to be the mean reversion level, which happened this morning. Ran up, came back down to that level, went down, came back up, sold off, and rallied right back up to 68.97 zone. So this level's been playing a good mean reversion game. So let's take it going into next week. Obviously, this 68.42 has to hold. If we're going to have any legs at all. But we're closing up Friday with the nice floppy bearish trend with lower lows and lower highs. So the thing to watch early next week is really to see this bracket, between 68.97, 68.42. We want to see how we hold within that. And I would say, obviously if we can get above 68.81, we push through 68.97, then I think we're free to, run up and test 69.33. And if we can hold these levels as we go up, I'm thinking we can probably break higher and we're done with the pullback. The flip side is obviously you want to watch at 68.97. If we can't get above this, start stalling below 68.81 and we start losing ground level by level, then losing 68.42 would probably open the floodgates to a much lower level. So we want to watch the price action between 68.42 and 97. No matter what it's doing, you want to see how the pattern's playing out. Is it, to the upside or is it looking weak, trying to retest this? Retest is okay, but boy, if we lose it, I don't think this is a good time to lose that level. Yeah, that's what I have to say about that. Anything you want to add there, Ben?
The levels say it all.
Yeah.
We just got to use those reference points to see, which
Mhm.
side has the edge.
Really, basically it, right?
Hmm.
And the nice thing here is you can see we went quarter square above the main square, then we went quarter square below, right? Quarter. So
Yep, there's
everything's really
symmetry.
balanced. Yep,
Yep,
it's very balanced. And this is why I picked 68.97 to be mean reversion.
right
Because
in the
if we're not
middle.
right in the middle, and if we're not gonna, take this out, we're probably gonna hang out, crisscross this and settle to one side or the other next week. Yeah, first week of a month is always a little bit dodgy, but I think these levels will help really focus in. Here's the 4-hour chart I posted, just to quickly look at it. It's the Gartley. And we had the ABCD target coming right about here, and you can see we ate through that. And once we did that, the next real target was both of these ratios coming together within 5-6 points, and that was really the next big level. And that managed to stall it, and we came down to the first equilibrium line. And the sign about a deeper correction is that we took it out, we held it for 4 hours, came down, took it out, rallied, kind of, not very convincingly, came back down and made a lower low. So this is why we want to watch those lows next week, because if this goes, we definitely have, you can see, just look at the chart. If you just even without looking at anything, really the support comes in around, 67.98, 68.07, right in this area. Just visually, just looking at the structure, and S&P always pushes below, so that would get us right into the EQ line next week. So that's 67.70, right in this area, 70 to 50. This line. You guys can draw basically connect this high to the swing high where B is, which is October 21st high, and that's the line you want to watch. If you're following this kind of stuff, you do godly work. That's it for the lower time frames. Let's move on to the bonds, which really followed through nicely.
It
So last
failed at a very important spot, didn't it?
there, yep, definitely. And the interesting thing is, people that are watching the ABCDs and like, oh, we completed it, we should be going lower, but no, we straddled this, ran up exactly quarter square. This is the level we kept saying for weeks. If we get there, if we break through these, this is the main level to watch. And that's the big resistance, right? Even on the weekly, I think this is where the 45 comes in. We'll look at that in a second. If you guys are watching bonds, so that was a key level, and now 1613 is really the 45-degree level. And we want to watch, sure. I mean, we basically stopped right on top of the consolidation here. Now, if we don't reverse here, we start going a little bit lower. Well, bonds are clearly weak. And so what we want to watch is see if this structural support is held, and if it's not, I would be looking for weaker levels, weaker prices. And we have a little trend line going here. We're barely right on top of the trend line. So obviously, if we lose the structural support, we're going to break the trend line. Well, we have another trend line below, so we'll see. But that's it for now. But this is pretty good support now. And it's possible we consolidate here, which is bullish. We were below the square before. Now we're breaking a little bit higher. But so far, bonds did great this week. We were looking for that kind of a sell-off coming off of the key. This is the 144 coming off the high in 2020, and that was the major level to watch, right? We kept saying, this is the level to watch if you can settle above or not. So far, it's a not. And so, we were up in there tapping up in that area for 3 weeks. And, well, we took out low of the high bar this week. And you can see the trend line is fairly, we're at 115. So it's a little bit to go. And so that's it for bonds. Let's move on to crude. Well, we kind of finished the ABCD, ran up. And the idea is, can we get above 61.61? This is sort of the key test. And looks like, this could be a 1, 2. And if we have a 3, that could be a grand one. But, it just might be an ABCD that fails at 55. If we keep doing ABCDs and consolidating to be ready to go. We made some progress, right? We have a count coming in. We're 90 from this high to this low with this here, a couple of days off. So we did have a 90 cycle, basically down into the 90, right? From that high. It's possible we finish up a cycle here, but we'll watch. We really want to have price confirmation before we jump into anything.
That 90 is a good heads up, though, to pay attention.
Yes, absolutely. I think those are the little clues from the market, right? They come very quietly. We want to watch them. And then if something
Yep.
happens, price gets taken out, structure starts to change. We know, okay, we had some evidence before all this happened, right? It's not like out of the blue. So here's the weekly crude oil. And, well, we managed to make a higher low. And I was surprised. I thought we, might as well go back and dip again and flush everything out, but we still might. Not like we're out of the woods. And we talked about the overhead, last week, so it's still in place. Let's see what happens. This looks a little bullish. We have a nice little inside bar. Obviously, that gets taken out to the upside. Remember what happens. We definitely can pick up some momentum moving higher. So keep an eye out for that. Something we just repeat every week. It's definitely worth watching. All right, so that's it for crude. Let's move on to gold. Well, when it hit 43.30, we talked about, hey, we're not able to, there's a major resistance. And the fact that it's probably time gold takes a little break. And you can see we've been up in that area for about a month. Not a month, I'm sorry, about a week. And up in this area for a week and finally turned down and took out the 50%. And found some support around the 180, 39.69, this area. So now it really depends. We're done with the bigger part of the correction. Now we're going to consolidate a little bit and pick up, or we're going to, have a little bit of steeper correction before moving higher.
That was
And
a
when we
nice
get,
90 degree correction,
yeah, yeah,
Swift
it's,
scared a
hmm
lot of people.
oh yeah, Swift is right. I mean, absolutely.
So
So it's not, but we, I think the weekly gold has the better story here. It's really, it's, that's the place to go. So let's take a look at the weekly. So this is a weekly square 52. You can see we had timing there. We talked, I think 2 weeks before we came up on it. I remember Ben mentioning, hey, we have that timing point coming up on the weekly. We got three squares out from the low, uh, 22 low. And yes, we were ready for that. And we had price 43, 41. Price and time came together. We reversed. And the weekly, you can see, I said the stories here really in the weekly. Let me zoom in a little bit. And the reason I said that, you can see how well this trades. So this week's low is pretty much on the 50%, high was on the actual square. And the deal now, I mean, this is that level I marked earlier. This is really good resistance or support. So if we're going to take the 50% out, this is really the big area we're going to find support. And I have a feeling, I mean, we can easily do that. That would really get people stop talking about gold and think that, oh, gold is done and so forth and so on, which would be just fine. So we'll wait to see if 50% holds or if we're going to trade lower. 50% is 39.15. So you guys have that. Let me put it here. So that's it for gold. It's in correction mode and let's just let it be there. Let it finish up. I think the move up was amazing. So something that great, we have to give it a little time to correct, burn up some time and let price balance. All right, let's moving on to silver. You guys can see we did pretty well. Hit the square, sold off, corrected, and 49.10 area is really holding it. So I would say long as we're below 49.10, we're kind of in a corrective mode, and 44.60 being major support. So it looks like we might get there just to correct and finish it up, and we'll take it from there. So silver's also in a corrective mode for now. And let's take a look at copper. Copper is actually doing pretty well, right? I mean, this was resistance. You can see this week we really poked through it. Maybe it was because of the China, the whole Chinese thing, the meeting and all that. But nonetheless, we held pretty well. We're holding well above 495. And so the next step to take is 518, 516 area. If we can get above that, I think that would really stabilize things. It's already stable above 495 because that's a major square. And you can see the trend lines, we were well above the trend line. We have another trend line coming through here. And I feel like long as we can consolidate above 495, there's a good shot at, taking up 550, if not higher. So
that full
copper looks,
square is key. That full square is key.
yeah, yeah, it looks obvious, right? When you're looking at
Yep.
the entire chart, the full square is the key.
Yep. I have a
So,
monthly that full square at 499. So right in that area is very
okay,
important.
okay, yeah, thanks. That's good. Good to know. So here's the silver weekly. Again, we look at that beautiful correction, right? We failed here, came right back to the 50% of the square, and we're holding above. I mean, if we hold it correct in here, consolidate, it's super bullish. So just like we did here, we kind of consolidated right into the upper square and then eventually took off. So if we can manage up here, yeah, go ahead.
I mean, look how harmonic that is. Isn't that look at the low right on the 50% of that square.
hmm Yeah, that's
That
good
this is why
support.
we use them, right? It gives you a grid on which to evaluate, these prices.
Right, right. Yep. Yeah, it's very good. Looks amazing. All right, let's take a look at the weekly. 480 is the 50% of the square. We're well above that. We're really pushing this 535 level is what we want to test. But it looks like we go up and do that. Now, in the bigger picture, we also have a high and a lower high. The question is the lower high leading to some bear market, right? So, but I think this is not that kind of a lower high. So we could correct. 480 would be the level to watch for correction. But other than that, I think at a minimal, we can expect some kind of a test at 535, right, Ben? That's what it
That
looks like. All right, let's move on to Bitcoin. So what's happening? We talked about the 111, 112 level last week to say, hey, we really need to, hold above that if we're going to go up and test higher. But nope, we reversed immediately, took out the low of the high. As soon as he got through 111 area, you can see what happened. We really immediately sold off next day too. And so this area is starting to hold. I think what I'd like to see now is to see if these the low, like today's low, Friday low, can be held somewhere through here. If these lows can be held, 103 was really good support. So if that support's held and we make it and we can kind of stabilize on a higher low, I think we could go up and test a little bit higher. But this, the big consolidation is not quite done. We have a potential expanding triangle here in the works. So a lot of things happening. That's what I mean. If we take today's low, then we could easily go and lean into that expanding line, right? Let's just say we draw it roughly like that, or even through here. So we definitely get into the 103 area, and we can probably do a false break and then reverse. So, I mean, we're talking about both possibilities, but I think long as we're below 111, 112, it's basically negative. Let me just put it that way. And if we can go lower, that would give us support. So right now it's really not on support. It's just hanging midway. If we can get out down into this area, either finish up the expanding triangle and do a false break at the same time, and really double check the 103. Fine. From there we can move higher. Otherwise, from here what we need to see is this 111, 112 gets taken out. And I know you're going to cover Bitcoin too, so I'll leave it at that.
The weekly and the monthly.
Yeah, really important level time frames. So the dollar didn't let us down at all. Trend line is holding. The trend is holding. Everything's cool. We've been bullish on the dollar. We've been a little too bullish on the dollar, and we were waiting for 99.50 to be taken out. And so we took it out last couple of this week, and lower levels held pretty well. We talked about the false break, and we have a steeper trend line here now, along with the original one. Looks like higher. I mean, looks like it's just really 101, 101 and a quarter, 101 really is the next level to test. And we'll wait for that. That's kind of where it's going. There's plenty of ABCs setting up, so we can do it next week.
But
Or I guess
Barry,
we
the
can,
dollar's going to zero, isn't it?
yeah, remember that? Uh, yeah, so you can see the ABC even gets right into that 101 area. So we'll see what happens. Let me do the euro and then we can go look at the weeklies. So the euro, one thing we've been shorting, right? We've been talking about short this and short, and I couldn't even believe how long that it couldn't even be up here. If you guys go back and check the tapes. And eventually, so 1650 is what we said last week. We really shouldn't settle above that. As long as we're below that, market's weak, and this week we tried to get above that, really couldn't, straddled it. And once the high to low bar got taken out, we had a nice move down. So great. Not quite down to the 115, 150. We have 114, 1476 would be the ABCD completion. No, not ABCD completion. I'm sorry. It'll be equal moves. But we'll see what happens there. But for now, it's weak. We're below a very important level, and it's trending in the correct direction. And the dollar is, of course, moving higher in the right direction. So we nailed the this pair pretty well. All right, so that's it for the daily. Let's take a look at the weekly dollar chart, looking great. And this is the big square that we've been talking about. We've been going off for.
It looks like it's ready to take off, doesn't it?
It sure does. It really does. The thing we want to watch is it going to be a fast one or some kind of a sort of a sloppy move like this, or a speedy one like that. So it all depends on the slope. We'll see how that goes. I think after next week it'll be a little bit more clear to make sure that we're done with the consolidation. But the lower part did really well. I thought it was really easy to read. We got the low, we got the false break low. Rest of it all looked pretty well. And our inside day uh, thing worked out pretty well, you know, once last week's high got taken out. So everything looks good and we'll leave good enough alone. As far as the weekly euro goes, 1654 was the 50% of the square. Last week we were, a little under it, kind of straddling it. And we took out the low this week. We went a little bit lower. That just looks the momentum and the close. If you look at the close, the weekly close, it just looks like we could definitely go a little lower, at least test the 1418, 1420 area. And we'll just trade it that way. That's the direction we're trading it. And that brings me up to just the Hang Seng. And you're going to cover natural gas this week?
So you don't have to do that.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I'll be covering it.
Okay, all right, great. So Hang Seng, we have, we're kind of straddling the 26,230. Not much to do. We're triangulating. So the question is, are we going to break to the upside or downside? But so far, we're sort of straddling this area. It looks, obviously above the main level where market's in very good shape. I think the intermediate level, 25,054 is what you want to watch. And if we can get above 26,230, we're back on the move again. So here, between 26,230 and 25, it looks like we're basically another consolidation phase. And you're going to cover natural gas, so which you brought up last week, doing pretty well. That's it for me. If you guys like our work, or even a little part of it, or even a little bit, you can you can give us a like and share, and also subscribe and hit the alerts, and we appreciate that. And also leave any comments. All right, let me put it back to you, Ben.
Good coverage. Very good
Mm,
coverage.
thanks, Ben. Well, that 25 720 was the key, right? We talked about it. You talked about it last week, and basically that's the one that drew a line.
Sure was.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, we went up, we topped on this, 1/4
Quarter.
square.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, we topped on the quarter, and now we're having a pullback. As long as the pullback holds above this 360, right? This is 360 degrees up
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
at 25 720, it's bullish.
Yep.
And honestly, we could even go all the way back here, to the 3/8 line, and still it'd be structurally bullish.
Yeah. And do a proper check back,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, we could.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
this hanging up here is really bullish.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And as long as we do hang above here, and then push through this quarter square, we're heading up to the 50% of the square, the half square there at 27,000.
Right.
So all in all, a bullish week, right?
Mm-hmm.
We pushed up, are having some consolidation here. Now we just watch and see, how strong is it? Do we stay on top of this? Do we come back and check here? If we lose both of those, then we have to say, okay, something different is happening and this high may be more major. But
Mm-hmm.
for now, it's very
Right.
bullish.
Yep.
That's the daily. Let's
Isn't it
check.
funny when something's clear, there's not so much to say, right?
No, it's just okay. Let's see what we wanted. The next thing we want to see is how does price react with either one of these levels? Like, do we
Yeah.
go back up here and fail again? Do we come down here and hold? We want one of these reference levels to give us some more information.
Right.
Let's
Exactly.
look at the calendar day. I know you like this chart here. You can see where we topped, right at 50% of the square.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was above 450. So we topped right there. Now we're pulling back. Again, think about it here. We could come all the way back to this 25,000 level where we did this multi-week,
Mm-hmm.
multi-month type of structure,
Mm-hmm.
uh, check it, and then go again.
Right.
So everything looks okay. Yes, we did make a high. Yes, we are pulling back. Now we want to see what's the nature of this pullback.
Mm-hmm.
Does it respect important levels? Is it more of a consolidation in time? And burning off time, or are we going to get a deeper pullback? And so, we're only a day or two into this, so we have to sort of see.
Mm-hmm.
Let's check the weekly, give you a different picture here. So we're interesting enough, Barry, we're coming up on 30 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
which would be next week, the week of November 7th, will be 30
Right.
weeks from that
Mm-hmm.
April 7th low.
Right.
So that's going to be interesting to see what we do into that. You
Mm-hmm.
know, right now we pushed above the 3/8, couldn't hold it, closing below it. You know, do we consolidate in here and then push up again? We'll see.
We have 45 high to high,
Yes.
right?
Hmm. There to there.
That's kind of a big deal
It
to
is a big
watch.
deal.
Yeah.
So again, those are markers that say, okay, let's see. Does price action change? Is it still respecting support, or is it now, moving through support and
Mm-hmm.
and respecting resistance? Because here, obviously, we just kept pushing through. Here was 1/8, another eighth, another a third eighth, 3/8. So
Right. Right.
let's see how it plays out. Lastly, let's take a look at the monthly because the monthly bar. Oh, that's Bitcoin. We'll get to that. There's here's
I
the
just saw that
NQ.
last bar.
Yeah, yeah, not a pretty bar. Here's the NQ monthly. So we have a full bar above that 24,000, right? This is where we spent 2 months and part of a third month, crisscrossing it or tapping it and being stuck under. Now we have a full bar over. So 26,800 roughly is where we're pushing towards. We have done 47 months high to high, so it's in that Gann death zone. Could go to 48, could go to 49 and still be in there. So just again, something to take note. Let's watch how price acts. But the month, the October bar has cleared 24,000. It's now official because we printed the October bar now. So let's see what happens this month. Can we push up higher, or do we get stuck under here at that 50% of the square? And remember, this is from the O2.com lows. So this is a pretty big type of square we're looking at. Anything you want to add on the NQs?
No, I think we're good
Okay.
between the both of us. I think we got everything.
Yep.
We got it covered.
Yeah. I've been posting the 60 minute every day. So if you are interested in the NQs,
Mm-hmm.
just follow me and follow Barry on X. We post stuff all week, but I daily I post a 60 minute ping pong chart for that for short-term traders. Here's the Bitcoin daily.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing's really changed here. This is still the key reference point, this 108 on a daily basis. You can see we've been crisscrossing it since early October. And it looks like we're going to still be hanging around here for a while because we cannot get clearance below it, or every time we get above it, we come right back to it. So we're kind of stuck in here for now, which is okay, right? We made that high. Barry called that high out in real time, and now we've been correcting, but it's really only been about about a square correction, right? From
Mm-hmm.
up here, what's that? The three
Quarter square.
quarters, three
Mm-hmm.
quarters to three quarters.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and now we're just chopping around. So let it play out. The key number here on a daily basis is 108. We don't want to see a full bar under it. If we get a full bar under it, then that's going to open up a lot more weakness. But for now, it's not terrible. Here's your weekly, same area. Daily it's 108. Weekly here it's 107.6, and we're holding it for now. The
Mm-hmm.
high came in, and that was a good high. As you can see, we hit right on the full square and pulled back pretty sharply, one half square. So now, as long as we're above this 107 and change, we can push higher. But watch it and see if we get a close under. Here's the here's the bar that's a little disturbing if you're bullish. For the fourth straight month, and 6 months if you count these two bars as well, where we tapped it, we haven't been able to close over this 111. We haven't been able to get a full bar over that 111. And now we have this big bar with a big wick above, and we're closing under it. So let's watch and see. Monthly basis, this 111 and change is really, really important. It's not super bearish, right? Because structurally we're pretty good. The lows here are on top of the highs here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
Uh, we're,
far.
we're just trying to see, are we going to get a little deeper correction? Like we talked about, I think was last week or the week before, we could pull all the way back to 74,000 and still be very bullish structurally. It would not be a pleasant ride if you're bullish from here to there. And we'd like to avoid that if possible. So if we start seeing closes under here on a monthly basis, that's when okay, the pressure is going to be to the downside, first to 93, and then if we get stuck under there, back to the 74. So that's it for Bitcoin. Anything you want to add on Bitcoin?
No, we're good. I think we have everything.
So let's talk about the commodities. We got a lot to cover there. We're going to look at wheat, we're going to look at corn, soybeans, cocoa, coffee, and nat gas. So there's activity beginning to happen in commodity land, and let's see what's happened. So here's your daily on wheat, and you can see why we haven't been talking about wheat very much,
Hmm.
because we've been basically going sideways
Yep.
for a year and a half. But an interesting development in the last week and a half. We have a false break here and a decent move higher off of it, right?
Right.
So this was the previous low. We took it out and then stayed on top of the full square, and now we're pushing up. This is the laggard of the three grains. So it's the one that is the uh, furthest away from calling it a bull market, but it's starting to turn. Like the full false break in cotton happened a long time ago, relatively speaking. The false break in beans happened a while ago. So these sort of structures have already happened in those other two commodities. Wheat is now just saying, "Oh, okay, you guys are going higher. Maybe I need to start looking at going higher." So we got the false break, we got the push up, we stayed on top of this 497 full square. Now we want to see, let's take out these highs here, which it was challenging it this week. Next week, we can push up here, pull back, and then go up and challenge this 50% of the square. So this is just starting out, but I wanted to highlight it because I'd like to give you guys the heads up so you can watch these patterns develop. Here's your weekly. You can see why we stopped there, although we did close on the high, which is great. 536 on a weekly basis is pretty important. And you see the same thing, right, Barry? You keep making lows, keep making lows. Here you make a lower low, and then you immediately reverse. Like look at from the day of the low, which was Wednesday, closed
Hmm.
on the high of the day. Thursday closed on the high of the day. Friday closed on the high of the day.
Yeah. Pushing. Yep.
So money's coming in. The other important thing, and this is one of the things Barry talked about in his segment, the cycles give us the sort of heads up to look for something, start looking for things. Well, I was looking to see this low, which was the low of the move until the false break, 180 weeks from that Russian invasion of Ukraine high. Now, 180 weeks doesn't happen very often, right? That's a pretty big cycle. So we made that low and then we made a lower low, but immediately reversed it.
Right.
So this
That's
is why
meaningful. Yeah.
yes,
Very
it's why
meaningful.
we start paying attention. Why when you look at the daily, you're like, what's the big deal? We're still in the sideways channel. This is the heads up, right? It's the 180 weeks high to low that says, hey, let's look for signatures now. Let's be open and aware of signatures now that tell us, hey, this move is over. And that's what a false break is, right? So this is why we want to watch wheat now. Let's quickly give you a view of the monthly. It's still going to be the last to turn, but you can see what it's been doing.
Already starting to turn.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we almost did an outside reversal month here. It's close. We made a
Yep.
new low, closed on the high, almost took out the highs of the previous month.
Hmm.
But the turn is coming. So be patient with wheat, watch the setups, see if we get the higher highs and higher lows, and that'll be confirmation that that false break low was a good low. All right, let's go to one that's a little further along, and that's corn. You can see sort of here's where we got a false break, right? That was a while ago. False break on the full square is always a nice signature to have. And we saw the same thing in wheat. So since then, we've pushed up, made a higher low. This past week, we made a higher high. It's just nice smooth, calmly climbing with not bad structure either, Barry. Look at that, right?
Hmm.
The lows of this week were practically on the highs of the September
Yep.
swing
Yep.
up. So 446 is going to be the next marker we want to see. You can see why it's pretty important because we put in lows here before, put in highs here before. So hopefully this coming week or so we can see that area and that level and see how price acts there. Once we sit on top of that, then this thing could, full blown momentum could kick in on this one. But it's progressing nicely. Slow, smooth, steady. Here's your weekly. ABCD, false break,
Hmm.
push up, capture the square, and now we made a higher high. Higher low, higher high. So
Well,
the weekly,
can't say we didn't talk about corn.
no. And it's nothing, it's not a Nvidia, it's not any of these,
Yeah,
tech
not
stocks.
AI.
It's not AI, but it's a steady money printer when it goes, right?
Hmm.
When
Hmm.
it moves nicely. I mean, you can see that what we're looking to catch is one of these moves. We're
Yep.
trying to catch one of these. And it's developing a pattern that says, hey, there's a higher probability one of those may be coming. Pay attention.
Hmm.
Here's a quick look at the monthly. So we've had our second, this is an outside bar, but we've had our second higher month, higher high on a month, right? We made the low this month. Then we got a high in September, higher high, October, higher high. So
Following a
this is,
false break.
yep, it's
Hmm.
moving along nicely. All right, let's go to the last one, the one that's the furthest along, and was aided by some trade news this week. That's soybeans.
Yay.
That's the monthly. Let's go to soybeans daily first.
I mean, that's a powerful chart, eh? The
Look
monthly.
at
Look at
that,
that.
huh?
Mhm. Yep.
I mean, just last week we were talking about, well, yes, we had a nice move. We got a higher high. The big test is going to come. Can we break out of this channel? Well,
Hmm.
there it is. Broke
And that
out, tested
1035
it.
was the key. Week before that, we were talking about how, watch the 1035, we get above that, that's a break. And
And remember what it
here
took to
we
do
are.
it. And we
Yeah.
pointed it out. It took a gap to get over it, but we got
Yeah.
over it. We said that's really important.
Yeah.
And you could see we started talking about beans in here when we started getting higher lows. There's your
Yeah.
higher low, false break, higher low,
Hmm.
and that's how it develops. All right, let's look at the weekly. And you could say cynics could say, "Oh, well, it's just the news that did it." But why do you think this pattern played out the way it is? It's because the
Hmm.
people that know, and they act based on that information.
Yep.
And that's how we pick it up through the chart. And look at this. Last week we
Hmm.
closed on the cliffhanger, right? We were at 1060, remember?
Hmm. Yep.
We
Yep.
said, yeah, this is a big spot, right? We want to get over 1060. So what does it do? It gaps over it. And look at that. We gapped over the 50% of the square and we broke out of this, year and a half long triangle, almost 2 year
Finally,
triangle.
finally.
Not triangle, sorry, rectangle.
Yeah, finally, we're done. So let's
But
see
but
how it
now we're
goes from
now we're
here.
up and out. Now we're
Yep.
going.
Yep.
And then here's the monthly.
Wow, that's powerful, eh? Look at that.
It's nice. Good
Yeah.
visuals here.
Hmm.
Broke the downtrend of like last month, right? We got a first full bar outside last month, a little bit on the previous month, and now we broke out of the channel and we're pushing up. So here, monthly, you can see bigger picture. 1275 is next. That's where this
Hmm.
thing could push to. And timing wise, I just looked at past cycles, 45 low to high, 45 low to high, did a 90 low to high. If we just did 45, you're looking at in the middle of 2028 for this next
Hmm.
high off that low.
Wow.
So this thing could run for a while, but we'll see. Price will tell us. All right, so that's the grains. They are looking very, very good in different stages. Like wheat's early, corn's in the middle, and beans is running. All right, let's check another one that I think we want to put on the radar for longs. Cocoa. So cocoa we talked about over here. Remember when we caught this crazy run in cocoa? This one?
Hmm.
And then we have this big, look at this big ABCD correction. right, into a full square. And
Yep.
now what have we done since we did that? We pushed up, higher low, got a
Yep.
higher low this week. So this week, again, it's early. It's early, early, early. Let me stress that. But we try and like make you aware. So we've got the higher low. Now can we make a higher high? If we make a higher high, then we can start saying, okay, something bigger is developing here. It's not just a, it's just another counter trend that's going to die like these did, on the way down. Completed an ABCD. Now we're starting to push. So next week, let's watch and see if we make a higher high. So here's your weekly. I wanted you to see the visual of the big ABCD we did.
Yep.
Came down into support, right? 50% of the square. Last week we got the reversal bar with an up bar. And this week we had the inside bar. So you can use Barry's method. Watch the high and the low of this past week to see most probable direction of the next move. And that's the weekly.
Hmm.
Let's take a quick look at the monthly.
And great geometry, eh? Yes.
Yeah. I mean, look at this thing. As
Yeah.
volatile it is, look at this monthly, Barry. Like,
Hmm.
pick the high on the full square,
Hmm.
pick the low on
On the
the
full
full
square.
square with
Yep.
timing,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
With timing. And now we closed the month above that full square.
Hmm.
So again, it's super early, but let's see, do we get a higher high this month? And that could build the case longer term for a bigger move higher.
Right.
So we'll see. Again, this is early, but I wanted to show it to you so you can see how these patterns and charts develop and develop through the different time frames. All right, let's take a look at the next one, which is the one that's been paying us for the last 6 months, both up and down, is coffee. And I want to show
Hmm.
it to you is we called out this high, this false break high on timing on a full square with the idea, let's play this short, right? So we played it short and look where it came in, right
Hmm.
into support.
Yeah. Right into it. Yeah.
So as you and I were talking, Barry, I was like, yeah, it's time to cover this week, because we're into that support zone. Let's see what kind of counter trend we get and what kind of bounce. So it's to me, it still needs to do more correcting, but now I want to see what does this counter trend look like? So far we've had one up bar because we had two inside bars, I think, or three inside bars and an up bar today. If we reverse right away off of this and take out 380, we're going a lot lower.
Yeah.
But I got to believe we're going to get a little more strength and maybe push up into here somewhere and get another lower high. If we get that lower high, then we can hit it again. But for now, I'm flat and just sort of looking to see where the next opportunity is here. All right, let's take a look at the weekly. So you
Yep.
can
Here
see
we
we
go.
made the high, clear false break here, right? You
Hmm.
can see
Yep.
that on the weekly. Very clear false break. Had a big move down, and then we came into this support.
Yep.
So let's step aside. Let's see what how the pattern develops, what the counter trend looks like. And if we just do inside weeks and then roll over, it's super weak. But if it does 1, 2, 3 weeks up, then you got to say, hey, something else is going on here. So we'll watch that. Let's quickly take a look at the monthly. Just give you a quick view of the monthly. So the monthly closed under that 403. Isn't it interesting, Barry, that not one month could close above that? One, two, three, four, five, six different tries. Couldn't get a close over it. So it's obviously a pretty important spot on a monthly basis. But we'll see how that plays out. Lastly, let's go take a look at Nat Gas, which we had a contract change, which is the gap. But I wanted to show you this because it is starting to perk up, right?
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah.
I mean, and let's look at, we did an ABCD down. We had a low, a higher, high, a higher low, a higher high. Something's going on here. Maybe it's just winter time. I don't know. People getting ready for winter, saying there's going to use more natural gas. We had the contract shift, but you can see it's still had strength, right? Because there's the contract shift right there where we shifted to the front month, pulls back, and then look at how we close the week. Push higher. Let's look at the weekly.
Look at that.
And again, relying less on the gap from the contract change, but just the higher lows, right?
Hmm.
So let's see how this plays out. Let's take a quick look at the monthly.
Look at that. Wow.
Yeah. So is bears watching? What you know the levels. I would stick with the daily levels for now because that's the pattern that's developing. Anything over four is bullish, right? Over this 401 full square because we would be sitting on top of all of this. If we get stuck under and we come back into this range, then you can say, okay, it's still not ready. But staying above four is a sign that we want to go higher, because 460 would be the next half square above it. And that's it. A lot of
Hmm.
activity on the commodities, but you know the levels and you know what to watch. The money seems to be coming in, especially in the grain area. And we're looking for opportunities because that's when you see the money come in, it's time to pay attention, and that's what the charts are telling us.
Absolutely.
So that's all I got. Everybody, listen, enjoy your Halloween weekend. Be ready for November. November's here on Monday, and as we've been saying, there's going to be no break, man. The volatility is going to be there, and that's what we want. We want markets to move. They're moving. Use the levels to be able to assess risk and probabilities, and
And don't be a
pull.
turkey.
And don't be a turkey, right? Pull as much money out of it as you
Hmm.
can when the market gives you the opportunity, and we're in one of those windows. So.
Yep, for
Great
sure.
job, Barry. I think you did an excellent job breaking down those markets and giving people the key levels to watch, and that's how you get an edge. So
Yep.
we'll talk to you everybody next week. Thanks so much.
Good job, Ben. And we'll see you guys next week. Take care. Have a great week. Bye bye.
See you
Mhm.
everybody.
All
Bye
right. Bye
bye.
bye.